Hey everybody, we're the Tri-State Sports Guys. I'm Mo. This is Mike. Is that Tony D?
We got the whole gang back together.
Tony
This
D
is like a little reunion tour
from
here.
a big vacation. Mike T behind the ones
It's
and
like Jimmy
twos.
Fallon hosting SNL. Like when he comes back, it's like you get very nostalgic.
See that?
Absolutely.
With Tony in the back.
Top of the Cape Ready Studios here in beautiful Norwalk, Connecticut.
Gorgeous.
We have a guest. We shout out to our boy Zu Mahenti.
Yeah.
He graduated.
Right.
We gave him a recommendation, and he's now ESPN News Highlight Express.
He was just kind of tolling around different in Denver for a while. He needed a stepping stone. He got lucky that he wound
Luckily
up
for
on
him,
our
the
show.
Carmelo Anthony thing came up, so we had to
We
interview
needed him,
him.
and then it really thrust him into
Yeah.
ESPN clearly saw it because they we know that they clearly watched the show, but and then boom, next thing you know, he's on ESPN News. We checked him out. He was awesome.
Yeah, he'll be on again Thursday and Sunday this week. Tariq Turner also on ESPN and SNY. So we're going to build from the ground up. We
Yeah.
got with us James Tita, Hopkins grad,
Yeah.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting class of 2012.
Yep.
James, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
He's a fan of the show.
I like it.
And just wants to be a part of it.
That's
Who are
all-
we to say no?
Nah.
And in reality, we never know if Tony's showing up.
Well, exactly. I was hoping he was going to come up with some say whats. Because
Yeah.
I figured Tony might not be here in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Might have to run out.
When he gets pulled out on an assignment, dude, he was covering the Dwight Howard.
Tony
trade.
had perfect attendance when the Bills were good. Now that he was here every week.
He
He's
was here at
opening
7
doors.
o'clock. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
vacuuming.
Now it's a blackout. Just
He
like
had
their,
that.
just like their game this
You
week.
had that. You had that jersey with the zero on it.
Now
The
he's
circle
like,
of the
oh,
wagon.
and
Never
Shaven,
wore
he
it. I
rolls
didn't even
in.
wear it.
I didn't wear it.
I didn't put it on once.
Yeah. So
I
what?
bought it and they lost 6 straight.
Yep.
In a related story,
Oh man.
we gotta talk. I mean, obviously, biggest game of the week: Jets Giants, Christmas Eve. Good
Let's
job by you, from a businessman selling your tickets.
Sold him early.
Great job by you.
Well, I had to sell him. But let's go over the two games from this past week. Let's recap what the two games. Because, I mean, both teams, we sat here last week saying, we're rooting for both teams to win because we want this game to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, the fact that they both lost did the same exact thing as far as, what this game meant. But, I mean, let's get into both of the games. I mean, did you watch both games? I mean, luckily, they were on at different times. You were able to watch
I
the whole
watched
game.
them and they were disgusting.
You watch. Let's start with the Giants. Now the Giants are one of those teams where they went on this terrible second half run, and everybody wanted to talk about how it was because they played a lot of good teams.
Yep.
But then you look at some of the games they lost in the first half of the year. They lost to Seattle. They lost to the Skins. You had Antrell Roll. Everybody likes to talk about the Jets running their mouths. Antrell Roll's going on there saying we would beat them 99 times out of 100, talking about the Redskins. Well, then they go out and they
Make
throw
it
up an egg.
98.
Make it 98, my man. I mean, yeah, did you see Rex Grossman's quote after that? He goes,
No.
I guess I don't ever want to go to Vegas with him.
Yeah.
But you look at that game, and, God, I mean, they didn't do really anything well on offense. They were dropping passes. Early on in the game, Hakeem Nicks drops that ball, which was clearly going to be a touchdown. And he says later on he lost it in the sun.
Which is believable because they didn't drop it as much as it hit in the mask.
Well, you know what? And I know you're going to say I'm bashing Eli, but nobody wants to blame Miles Austin the week before when he says he lost the ball in the lights. It was all about how Tony Romo couldn't make the big pass when they needed it. He had a great game, but when they really needed it and had a guy wide open, he couldn't make the pass. They accept the excuse that Hakeem Nicks lost in the sun. Why didn't they accept the excuse that Miles Austin lost in the lights? Like it just shows you that Tony Romo will never get those kind of benefits of the doubt. It's if anything goes wrong, it's Tony Romo's fault. Let's get into Eli Manning a little bit.
He didn't play well.
He didn't play well,
But he's had a great year.
But let's talk. Last week you said he was top 5. We talked about Evan Roberts saying that he's definitely a Hall of Famer right now.
Well, Evan Roberts is crazy.
So I did a little research on this season. They're 7-7. So I do a
Are
little
you
research.
shocked at this?
James,
I got news for you.
He rolls in. He don't even know what the topics are.
Yeah.
Tony shows up. His attendance.
Without looking at
I did a little preparation.
Without looking at this
Like-
preparation, is there any doubt that it's going to come out with Eli Manning is not as good as we think he is?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Everybody talks about why they're 7-7.
Yes.
And people blame it on what? Their defense,
Their lack of defense.
their lack of defense, and their running game.
Okay.
Right? Because
All
their
right.
running game is
I'm with
clearly
you.
very bad.
More the defense, but
So I looked at the stats in the games that they won and the stats in the games that they lost. And when you really look at it, they're actually averaging more yards per carry in their losses than they are their wins. Neither of them are very great. It's 3.5 yards per carry in their losses, 3.3 yards in their wins.
All right.
So it's not like that's a big difference.
Okay.
Their defense, as far as yards and points against, isn't a huge difference. The 149-point game they gave up to New Orleans kind of skews that. But then you look at Eli Manning's stats in their wins and in their losses. In their wins, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Uh-huh.
Okay? That's what it was 7 games. 7 losses, 11 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. So the only variable is how he plays.
Well,
That's when he plays well, they win. When he plays badly, they lose. So the defense is always going to be mediocre to bad. The running game's not going to be good. The one thing that changes is whether Eli Manning plays well. But how come it's not his fault if they're 7-7? How could he have more interceptions than touchdowns? And there's 7 losses. That's 7 games. And you're going to tell me he's a top 5 quarterback? Name another top 5 quarterback that would do that.
you would agree that in situations where the Giants are behind or where the defense is playing especially bad in terms of inopportune big plays allowed, he may have to force some balls. Like,
Why?
for example, when he lost to the Seahawks, he throws a pick there at the end. It's really not his fault. He's got to try and make a play there.
But if they were closer, I would maybe give you that. But when it's 14 touchdowns, 3 picks against 11 touchdowns and 12 picks, I mean, it's so you can't just say that he had to force that many more balls. It's so the difference is so strong.
What I think happens with Eli, and this is why he's obviously having a great year.
Yeah.
But I still don't think he's clearly a second tier quarterback. Is that when games? What's that?
He's not elite.
He's not
don't
elite, he's
think
not
he
top
is.
5. You said he was top 5 last week.
Well, I think top 5, but maybe top 4 guys are. There's definitely a gap between 4 and 5. Is that when games get out of hand, or when games are starting to unravel, like the Saints game, for example, he either brings them back or he becomes awful.
Right.
And then he starts throwing every pass into double coverage. He almost reverts back to the old Eli, where he's done a pretty good job this year of avoiding those ridiculous throws or avoiding those tips. Like the game that they lost to the Saints, I think he had given only 2 tip passes all year, and he had 4 that game.
Right.
So in my mind, he's playing well, but sometimes he still forces a little too much. But he's doing a better job of scaling that back. Now, I'd have to look at all those games to see when some of those interceptions came, because I do think
the Redskins don't have a good defense. He's gotten 0 touchdowns and 4 picks.
I think this is the worst game he played all year.
Right. I mean, he was bad. I mean, but even today, what amazes me about, we live in New York, the New York area where everybody, just they say it's the hardest media, area in the country. But yet everybody gives him all the benefits of the doubt. Today, there was somebody on ESPN Radio, some analyst on there saying, well, I didn't think, this interception wasn't really his fault.
But what other game do you think he cost them?
Well, I'm just giving you all these stats. How could you turn the ball over more? How could you turn the ball over 12 times? And that's I didn't even look at the fumbles.
But sometimes it depends on when those plays happen. When he has to force a ball.
The biggest thing, if you look at wins and losses in football, is turnover ratio. It really is. It's your plus minus.
I understand it, but
if you have a quarterback who's going to turn the ball over 1.5 to 2 times every game in your losses, you're going to lose those games.
Yes, but what if some of those interceptions are happening because, for example, all of a sudden now it's in a 4-down situation, he's forced to force a pass on 3rd and 18 that he wouldn't normally.
He does. We've talked about that's what he throws the ball like that anyway.
But he had done a better job in those wins of avoiding that, which is why he was playing at such a high level.
Tony, what do you think about this? I mean, you can't argue with that stat.
No, I think it's.
And nobody talks about it because everybody loves the guy.
I would have to see.
Have you heard anybody bring that up?
No,
I had to do it to myself. I had to go through this game.
I would have to
logs.
look into the game.
You think I'm lying?
No,
I'm lying.
But I think not. I said no.
God forbid you look it up.
I said no.
I'll look it up right now, brother. I got my own line right here.
I said no.
James, what do you think? I mean, were you a Jets, Giants? What kind of fan are you?
I'm actually an Eagle fan.
Oh my
Eagle
God.
fan. I mean,
I'm a little different here. I'm from the New York area. I'm an
so
Eagle
you could
fan.
give an unbiased view. All right. I mean,
Well, I think, first of all, I think more so this year and last year than ever before, the league has become a quarterback league.
right,
So you're going to win or lose games based on your quarterback play.
right.
I think Eli's had a pretty decent year this year, actually.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the Redskins game, he definitely did not come to play. And I think more importantly than the interceptions, the total amount of interceptions was when he threw them. He threw 2 red zone interceptions.
Right.
That takes points off the board.
Right.
And that's poor decision making. And he hadn't been making those poor decisions all year. Even, in some of those losses, he, he hasn't been forcing as many balls.
Right.
He's been throwing balls away. He's been doing better. I think that yesterday was one of the first games all year that he legitimately cost them the entire game.
Right.
But
and
your
a big
stat
spot.
is true.
I would have to see the game logs to see some of those like I said, not all interceptions are created equal. Eli Manning, to me, can you name another? Who's better than him? Who are the Name 5 quarterbacks better than that.
Well, the 3 obvious ones.
Well, there's 4 obvious ones to me.
Right, there's 4 obvious ones, and then you want to talk. I mean, I put in Matt Ryan's stats are much better than him. Because Matt Ryan's stats this year are much better than his. You can't lie about that.
Let me ask: if Eli Manning were on the Jets,
Yeah.
would they have more wins?
I'd say one. I mean, he's better than Sanchez, but I don't know that he's. I don't know that the Jets would have many more wins because you look at the losses and the splits with the Sanchez stats are not that big. I mean, they might have won some more games. They would have probably won the Denver game because but. Sanchez doesn't lose a lot of games. He doesn't go out and win a lot of games. He doesn't lose a lot of games.
I think what separates Eli Manning from these other great guys is that he has all the talent in the world, but he still has that ability where you never know if he's going to go out there and throw a 3-interception game.
Right.
And that's what separates him from like a Brady.
We've talked about it a million times. You got those 4 guys, and then there's the next class. And I believe he is in the next class, but I think they're all kind of interchangeable. There are weeks when Stafford looks like he's better than them. There's weeks when Matt Ryan looks like he's better. They all are kind of interchangeable. I just think that when you have guys like Evan Roberts, who I really respect, saying that guy's already a Hall of Famer, it just drives me crazy. It's like the Jeter argument when we sit there and say, I agree Jeter's a great player, but when you put him on the same pedestal as Mickey Mantle, then you're just ridiculous.
So what do you think in terms of everyone? I think everyone seems to assume, well, the Giants' pass rush is still there. I think at this point you have to know or have to admit it's not there.
JPP
Other than
is there.
JPP,
Yeah.
they're not there. Tuck isn't playing at a high level. OC's always hurt.
Yeah.
Like you've talked about it before, they need to bring in more. They need to blitz more
And he
people.
doesn't
But
blitz.
at the same time, that shows you the lack of confidence in their awful defensive backfield.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder why people. I mean, we're going to get into the game a little more next segment when we talk about the Jets, but why people just assume, the Jets have the defense to play. The Jets are not playing good defense at all.
No, the Jets don't.
I mean, the Giants. I'm sorry, the Giants.
The
are not
Giants
playing.
haven't played. No, I know. I agree with you. And the big thing that everybody's saying about their pass rush. Granted, Sanchez is not great against a good pass rush because he needs his time. And,
Yeah.
but they don't have a great pass rush.
Exactly.
I mean,
People
they'll
are saying that like it's a problem.
Right.
Why
Because
is
if
that a bigger
anybody is
problem?
going to get affected by it, it's Rex Grossman. Rex Grossman is the guy that if he gets playing time,
Absolutely.
he plays like an elite quarterback, and when he doesn't, he plays like the worst quarterback in the league. And if you can't get in 2 games, they haven't shown that they can get to Rex Grossman. So I agree. I mean, they're gonna have to blitz because I'm sure whatever side JPP's on is gonna get some help. They're gonna probably try to line him up over Hunter, but he's gonna get some help over there. I would assume. Yeah, at some point, Shotty's got to get Hunter is as bad of a starting player there is in the NFL right now.
That's going to be a problem.
It's gonna be a problem, but if you know that they have one pass rusher that you have to be really scared about, and they're not going to bring a blitz, there's a way. So
Maybe they will.
Perry Fuel. I mean, granted, he may show us something different, but you got to look at what they've done over 14 games. He hasn't shown you anything different. He's relying on his pass rush, which really is just one dimensional. It's just JPP.
But I do think I think what's going to really hurt the Giants in this particular game is that one of the Jets' strengths are they have very good wideouts, really good wideouts, and the Giants' defense they can't guard one of those guys, let alone both of them. And you got the Plaxico situation.
Right.
Maybe he comes in a little fired up. You got that adds to it. Holmes played so bad last week that you think maybe he's going to be a little more focused. I think that's something the Giants really have to be worried about.
Yeah. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll go into the Jets, and then we'll break down the game.
All right, we'll talk about that awful loss. We'll be back for the Tri-State Sports Guys.